What
Go
is
for it.
up, guys? This is episode 3 of the Average Bros podcast, and we are back at it again. We've been pretty consistent every week on Wednesday, so we're going to keep it rolling again with just Julian and I. We do want to get some guests on here in the near future, but for now, it's just going to be hopefully getting a bit better of an idea of who we are, what we're talking about, what we're doing. And this week is no exception to that fact with I think we should start off with what's coming up this weekend in the bodybuilding world. Very, very important show. Dating back for a long time, like Night of Champions, New York Pro, probably the biggest show outside of like what would you say, the Arnold and the Olympia?
Yeah, for sure. And before touching on that real quick, I just want to come back to what we were talking just before hitting record. The
Mhm.
reason why we're not having guests right away is because we both feel like we're still not totally ourselves while doing the podcast. Like we do censor ourselves a bit and all that kind of stuff. So we want to get more used to making this easy for both of us before having some extra guests and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
We'll get there. But I don't know for you, but it's more intimidating in a way than I thought it would be, in the sense that I feel it's easier for me to be a guest in a podcast, especially when I'm like face to face with someone, as opposed to just talking to my computer, which feels kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I think that's also because like when you're on someone's podcast, you feel like it's their responsibility to like keep it going and
Yeah.
have engaging questions and stuff like that, right? Like
Yeah.
for us, it's kind of now it's up to us, and you're slowly losing me to like the dark side of prep too. So you're gonna have to
Yeah.
do a lot of the heavy lifting for the
Yeah, I
next
need to get better quick.
few weeks here, Julian.
Yeah. So New York Pro coming up. Pittsburgh just finished last week. Uh, so I want to first talk about Pittsburgh. Like, obviously, I'm guessing you watched the guest posing, you
Mhm.
looked at the videos. So first off, like, what did you think? Like, first impression, who impressed you the most? Who were you disappointed in a bit, if anyone?
Before I go to that, I thought that I don't know if they do this every year because I don't watch it that closely, but they had so many random dudes on stage. You didn't watch, did you,
No, I wasn't
live?
even home.
Yeah.
No.
There was like obviously they called up like the big name guys, but then like there's people like posing on stage. I'm like, I don't even know who that is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was weird. It was like a participation kind of thing. Like anybody was welcome to like I could have jumped on stage. Like
Really?
it was
Okay.
so strange. Yeah. Didn't love that.
No.
I feel like when it's like a big show and a guest posing kind of thing, you're there to see like, five, six biggest names in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Um, like just to your point of like standouts, I thought like right off the bat, Hunter looked massive.
Yeah.
Um, and I hate to like knock like when his face gets really thick because mine does that too. But I just felt like he looked like he was pushing food hard. Like he
Yeah.
had that look in his like his face where like he had that crazy blocky head, and everyone looks at that and they go, "Oh God, he can't be healthy." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know if that
I think he's over 300 pounds right now.
he looks
So
huge, dude. Like huge, night and day, kind of like, and he's always been a big dude,
yeah.
but like he's just massive, right?
Yeah.
So he definitely stood out to me. And to that point, I'm wondering like what you think too. Like, where do you
Well,
think that like
I'm gonna
puffy?
pull up I'm gonna pull up his picture real quick so
Okay.
that people that didn't watch can actually see. Um, I'm not sure if this is gonna work, guys, because we never tried it. So let's hope it does. Can you see?
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've got that on my
Yeah,
side.
that's
Okay, here.
working.
Look
Good.
at us, eh? We're actually
Yeah.
growing in the podcasting
Oh
world. Good
yeah.
job, Julian.
So yeah, I can see what you mean with the face, especially when he's eating a most muscular, probably not the best shot to have a nice face, huh?
Yeah, but like, where do you think that face comes like from majority? Like, you think it's just pushing food, anabolics?
Yeah, I
Like,
think it's mostly just water retention, right? For some people, it goes more in the face. For some, it's everywhere.
So it's just
Uh,
a genetic thing more so than anything.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not like he's fat by any means. Like you can still
No,
see
like
his
he's
abs.
got a
He's
six pack, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I really just think it's just water retention and also probably carbing up before the actual guest pose.
So let's say water retention, you go down that road. Like,
Yeah,
is it estrogen is high water retention? Is it just because
yeah.
carbs are so high water
Well,
retention, or
well,
like
I would think it's a mix of everything, right? I would think it's probably hormone related. So the estrogen being high, carbs being high, and probably some insulin also here and there.
personally though, like when I push up in my off seasons, my face gets
Yeah,
really round. My face is round now, and I'm like 3 weeks out, right? So
yeah,
when my face gets big in the off season, my estrogen is still in range.
yeah.
Like I'm not a huge like aromatizing guy. Like I don't have much of an issue like with tests converting over.
But don't you
S-
feel like your face could be bloated from just having your estrogen in range, though? Whereas in prep, it's
As
going to be
opposed to
like
very
way low.
low, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, I guess a little bit, sort of, but I think really it's just more to do with food and maybe
Yeah.
extra sodium or something. Like I don't know if it's for me anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah. So no, I thought Hunter looked huge. I was also impressed by like they're all at different stages. So like you see guys who are like 5 weeks out, you see guys that are like 1 week out, like Nick and Martin,
Yeah.
and then like Samson and Andrew are just like they're in a complete off season, right?
Yeah.
I thought Andrew looked really good too. Um, he's just a tower of a dude, and I thought he looked massive as well.
Yeah. I'm going to go get this picture. Um, See, Andrew to me was,
Like he's soft, obviously, but
yeah, like he wasn't like a wow factor, but he wasn't like a disappointment either.
yeah,
Just
he's
like,
humongous though.
yeah, it's just I'm looking at him
Yeah.
and I have a hard time seeing him crack the top four or top five.
Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, it's just like even if he's big, I feel like there's still holes a bit everywhere. Like his legs are big, but not as big as some other guys because he's so tall, right?
Mhm.
His forearms need to get bigger to kind of close the gap. Did you see the arrow on my screen when I'm doing
Yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So his forearms, I feel like, are really small, and it's Steve Kuklo that had the same problem. I feel like when you're tall and you have small forearms, it
Hmm.
just creates this big gap, which kind of sound dumb, but does make a difference.
I see that. Yeah, what you mean for sure.
So it's not that he's not good. It's just that I feel like he still has gaps to fill that the top four or five guys don't really have.
Okay. I think we should touch quickly on Martin and Nick too, since they're
Yeah.
competing, right?
Yeah. Well, you have Martin right there. I mean, to me, he's actually really pleasing to look at. Like
Agreed.
it's like a beautiful shape. I'm actually surprised that he's that good. Like I knew he was good, but I didn't expect him to be that good.
Mhm.
I feel like he's going to be even better than at Fouad's show. So
Yeah. The thing
definitely,
with him is to me, like he has such a pleasing physique and he has all the tools, but I always feel like even though I know that he is conditioned, like
yeah.
his physique doesn't like scream conditioning to me.
No, I feel like that's kind of him being young though. Like he's 27 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So I do think that the more like muscles mature, the harder they're gonna look.
Yeah, that's fair. But he's like dense though,
Yeah,
like he's got pretty mature muscle.
yeah, he is.
But that front double is like beautiful looking though.
Yeah, it's really like it's weird because I didn't see him as like a shape guy before, but now like this year, I feel like looking at him, I'm like, wow, he's got a pretty nice shape, like front to back.
He's great from the back too.
Yeah,
His back shots are crazy.
yeah. Then you have Samson, who was probably off for the guest posing. So
Yeah, I think I heard Fuad saying that like he's on like I don't even know if he's on TRT. I think he's like off
yeah,
completely, which is
no,
like imagine looking like that, not using anything.
yeah. What do you think, by the way, talking about Samson, what do you think about him training with the Kuwait guys? Did you see
Uh,
that? That he's at he's being trained by Oxygen Gym?
I had no idea who was.
No?
No.
Yeah,
No.
so he's going to be coached by the guys there, and Abdullah is not even there anymore. So I'm not sure. I mean, I'm surprised by that move,
Hmm.
considering to me it's not more size that he needs, it's more conditioning.
Hmm.
So I'll be curious to see how that goes.
He's tried a lot of different avenues, right, with coaching.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel like what you would need would be to work with like someone like AJ Sims or something like that, where he would just be like peeled out of his mind.
Hmm. I
But
agree.
I guess we'll see. So we have Nick right there.
Yeah.
So
What
what
do
do
you think
you,
about Nick?
I think he probably didn't showcase his physique as well as he could have in that guest posing for whatever reason. Uh, I'm pretty sure they didn't try to peak or do anything for that except maybe try pushing food.
But you know
Um,
Matt pretty well. Like to
yeah,
me, it's I'm looking at someone who is walking on stage without changing anything for this particular
no,
moment,
no,
right? So there's
exactly.
absolutely nothing going on to try and make him look good on this
No,
day,
I agree.
which
One,
tells me that like I really think that with obviously a really great peak from that he's going to be like a completely different looking bodybuilder this weekend coming up.
100%. The
Hmm.
only And I think Nick is going to be great this year. I think he's going to win New York. I don't really see him losing, even if there's some guys that might have him beat on a few elements.
Hmm.
The only thing I want to see in New York next week is his waist. And people on the internet were commenting about like his gut and all that kind of shit. There's no gut there. The only thing I'm a bit worried is the width of his waist, like from ear to ear, which I feel kind of got a bit bigger. Uh, his lats got bigger too. Thing is, I feel like all the upper shelf, both his lats, delts, arms, and waist got wider quicker than his quads.
I
And
just
that,
think when he's loaded and dried out
yeah,
and able to like really stick that stomach like with the flex abs,
yeah,
it's going to be extremely impressive again.
yeah,
I have no doubts. And like to your point, I think that like it's easy for me to look at this and say like I'm kind of disappointed at how he looks at this guest posing.
yeah.
But I also think that Nick would be the first one to tell you that like this isn't his favorite look of himself, right?
No, and I'm sure that the difference between this week and next week is going to be enormous. Like I've seen, and Matt sent me pictures before of Nick, like the morning of a show and the night before the show, and
Mhm.
it looked like there was like a month and a half worth of progress in that 12-hour gap. So obviously, I do know that Nick is going to look way different in New York this weekend, but
Mhm.
going by what we see, obviously, I think this is going to come in, but if it doesn't, that could be something that would end up being problematic for him a bit.
Yeah, no, I hear that too. Like, I feel like while we're on the topic of this, we should just breeze right into like how we think that the show is going to shape up and what we sort of expect going into
Yeah.
it.
I mean,
I
I
don't want
do,
to spend forever talking about it either because I know we do want to cover other topics as
yeah,
well, right?
yeah. I do feel like we need to just say that Derek looked incredible before.
Yeah, we
Uh,
have nothing like enlightening on this topic
no,
though, right? Like I
no,
think
like
everyone in the world
to
thinks
me,
he looks.
that no, it just solidifies that I personally think he's going to win again this year. Uh, but we'll have to see.
He's a type that always looks impressive in the off season though
Yeah,
because of like his fullness and round muscle bellies.
yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
So New York, right? Um, so the top contenders are obviously Nick, then you got Quentin, you got Martin, Tonio, and Stu. I
Yep.
guess that would be like your top guys.
Yeah, but then there's a lot of good guys after that too,
Yeah,
which like it's gonna be fun to see even like those second, third call outs.
yeah. You want me to pull up the list?
Yeah, sure. Let's pull up the list if you have it.
But I think that those fives are going to make the first call out, though. Like, I
I
don't,
agree. I don't see someone else. Like those are really top five. Like that's a crazy top five for a show. Like
yeah.
any other show, any of those guys could really. win
Yeah.
on any given day. So like someone who comes fifth at New York could potentially win a show like 3 weeks later.
Oh, for sure. 100%. And see, that's something that's nice this year compared to last year. I feel like last year, every show just had one guy that was going to kind of
Yeah.
win the show. Whereas
Yeah.
this year's, there's actually like some fights in there. Like, obviously, people think Nick is going to win, but like, who knows who's going to be second and even first? Like, Nick could mess it up. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's not like a 100% certain win because there's some other good guys in there.
Like without being biased, I think the only one that could push him and expose things is Quentin.
Yeah, totally agree.
Um, just because of the pleasing physique that he brings. And obviously all the improvements that he's made coming into this show. Uh, if he's, if he can do what he needs to do with this peak, and the reason that I like with Quentin always coming into it,
Yeah,
I never wanted to put him in a particular spot because I think you're similar this way too. Is like a lot of the times like I need to see it.
yeah,
With Quentin, like he's made massive improvements, but we haven't seen it on stage yet.
no,
And it's easy to speculate that like, based on how he looks and everything that's going on, like I see him in person all the time and he looks incredible.
yeah,
But I haven't seen him beside these guys.
no, yeah,
But
and
with that said though, just the structure that he carries, he's the only one that has a threat in my opinion, because when you look at Martin and you look at Tonio, they're just too small to rival Nick's sheer mass and structure.
totally
The
agree with
only
that.
thing that Quentin carries is just that massive frame and like very pleasing lines. But that could like potentially put Quentin from first to like fourth or fifth too,
Yeah,
right? Just because like he has all those tools, but it really comes down to like how he lines up against all of those guys.
I totally agree. So to your point, I feel like Quentin is the only guy that could go from first to fourth or even fifth. Um, Whereas the other guys are all fighting for second at best, I feel.
Quentin wins this show. Okay.
Yeah,
Do we talk him about him as an Olympia favorite to win the Olympia?
I would say in 2025.
Okay.
It would be a contender. I don't,
He would have to be. I mean, we talk
oh,
about
for
Nick
sure.
having a potential shot of winning. Like,
Yeah,
there's no way I discount Nick of winning this year's Olympia.
no.
Like, I know
But
we think Derek looks really good at that guest posing and that, but
yeah,
it's impossible. There's certain things that Nick definitely beats Derek in.
yeah,
And I just think that, like, as a fan of bodybuilding, it would be pretty cool to have like some sort of shake up like that. And again, it's really hard for us to talk about this because like we're friends with like all these guys, right?
yeah,
Like you and I talk back and forth with Quentin, with Nick. And it's not like I'm just objectively speaking to what I'm seeing with these.
yeah, for sure.
So that's sort of that point there. But it's like I've for the last 2 weeks have been like consistently counting down the days to this show. That's how
Yeah,
excited I am to watch it.
yeah, it's going to be a great one for sure. And back to your point with Quentin, I feel like as soon as you're going to have a tall, round guy with a pleasing physique that's going to be able to come in hard, then that's going to be your Olympia winner. Because right
Right.
now, what's happening is the three short guys have the density and kind of
Hmm.
the look, and the big guys don't. And that's really just it. Like the
Yeah.
guys that could potentially win the Olympia, aside from Nick, Hadi, and Derek, are right
Hmm.
now Andrew and Samson, and they both don't come in hard enough right now.
Right.
So I feel like if Quinton can get that down, and that's why I'm thinking it's not going to be this year, but the following year, because he got bigger, but there's still like this grainy look that he needs to get.
Mhm.
to really be able to outshine the other guys. Because if you don't have that, then it becomes kind of like apple to oranges, and it's like, what do you
It's
prefer?
tough too though, because like there's a difference in physiques. Like I always think of like Regan when I think about like the roundy, like kind of cloud
Yeah,
looking physique, which I love that look too.
yeah,
But some guys just have that versus like, and they could be shredded, but they're not going to have that like compact, grainy muscle. I think like there's no doubt in my mind that Quentin's conditioned, and it's really just going to come down to, for me, like how well he fills and keeps separation in his legs. Like I
yeah,
think if he can come in full blown, and like I know he's in shape, it's just like how is his body going to respond to like that big influx of food? Because looking at him now, like there's certain pictures where like I know he's flat, like
yeah.
really, really flat, because he's been dieting like for, obviously that these guys have all been dieting for a
He's
long
been
time, but
pushing
like
it for a while.
he's been pushing it hard, lots of cardio, very little food. So I think it's just that like super compensation. And
Yeah,
like Milos does this where it's like he goes zero carbs and then blows it out of the water, like to bring that crazy fullness.
yeah,
But it'll be interesting like how his body responds, and like if he's like a sponge man and he soaks it up, and that would be like the thing that could really kind of put him into a really cool spot. But
yeah,
if he can't or he doesn't, then Nick is just too overpowering, like muscle wise at this time.
for sure. Um, Back to the density point, I personally don't agree with you fully.
Hmm.
And as yes, some guys have it easier than others, but I do feel like it's really big time training related. Uh, and the reason why I'm saying that is that if you look at Matt's guys,
Hmm.
they all got this dense look to them.
Hmm.
All. It's not one or two, it's all of them.
Hmm.
They all, he has everyone trained in a certain way. If you look at Brett looks dense, hard. If you look at Charles Griffin, same thing. Sean Clarida, same thing. Nick, same thing. Obviously, Nick changed his training now, but he had built that density before.
Hmm.
If you look at Dallas back in the days, same thing. So if you look at Ronnie Coleman, same thing. Branch Warren, same thing. Johnny Jackson, same thing. Even
So what
Phil.
do you think it is about that style of training that brings
Well,
a hard, grainy look?
and see, that's maybe me that being fully in the know, but I'll take your example, and you talked about Regan.
Hmm.
I don't feel like Regan train as hard as, let's say, someone like Sean Clarida in the
I,
terms
I
of,
I can't compare those two specifically, but Regan trains crazy hard with like a volume approach.
yeah, but he doesn't push his sets to like full failure, right? He just does a
Perhaps not.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, maybe not.
So I feel like that's the main thing. I feel like when you really push your sets to failure, past failure,
Hmm.
then you're going to be able to build more density in your muscles.
Do you think that
Whereas
has to be with heavy weight though?
I do.
Or it's just intensity?
I think it's a mix of both. I think you need to have heavy weight. You can still train in a controlled manner, but you need to put enough tension on your muscle. And obviously, the weight you're going to pick is going to put tension on your muscle. If you look at Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, like all those guys were strong, right? Really, really strong. If you
There's a
look
lot of
at,
examples that go against that though, right? Like you look at Jay Cutler, you look at Dexter Jackson, like
well, these guys are volume training though.
right. They are, yeah, but they're not like crazy intensity per set, low volume, like
N-
heavyweight guys.
No, and that's why I'm saying that some are going to be more predisposed to being denser genetically.
Hmm.
Uh, Thing is with Jay, like he was still pretty freaking strong though.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure, for sure.
and I feel like he did push his set kind of hard.
Well,
Mostly,
he would have to, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, there's some genetic predisposition, but I feel like the way people train does play a role, which is why I think like look at Hadi. Like he's super dense. Look at how he trains.
Mhm.
Like obviously the body is put through a lot of stress through the poundage that he's using. So I feel like that's kind of like an adaptative response to using heavy weight.
I think too that people as a like a general statement, like I would say like 95% of people think they're training hard,
Yeah,
but are not training hard.
no,
Like if
exactly.
you walk into any gym, like Pure Muscle is no exception. Like there might be one guy on the floor at that time that's actually training hard.
Yeah.
And like with my clients, sometimes like if we get to a point and like they're like, oh, like, maybe they're getting stuck somewhere or something, I say like, let's do a session together in person. Because there was a time with bodybuilding when it went like everything is food.
Yeah.
You remember that? It was like
Yeah.
bodybuilding is
Training doesn't matter.
ninety
It's all
percent of what
food.
you eat, and it really like training is just like 20. You just got to go work out,
Yeah.
right? And now we're coming back to, I think, like the big thing that could separate people is their training intensity.
Oh, for sure.
And if you think you're training hard, you're not.
No.
Like you can always train harder. And then that's like really what's going to differentiate you from someone who's good to someone who's great.
Yeah.
If you're consistent and you go in and you work out and you get all your sets done, that's one thing. But if you're like barely able to survive through three or four like truly challenging sets where it's like, the Dorian Yates style, the gun to
Yeah.
your head, everything's a go, like
Yeah.
don't get this set or your freaking kid
Yeah.
dies. Like
Yeah.
like if you're training that hard, it's going to be an adaptive response. And I think that's sort of what you're talking about
Yeah.
when it comes to like the intensity level that you need to be able to develop a really, really competitive, dense physique.
For sure. And sometimes I trick my clients in asking them questions where without them knowing, they're going to answer and tell me if they train hard enough or not. For example, if I have someone training 5 days a week and their chest is not growing properly, I'm going to be like, do you think we could add a 6 day? Or
Yes.
do you
Yeah.
think we could add more sets? Then if they're like, oh yeah, for sure, I can handle more. Well, I know right away they're not training hard enough
Mhm.
because they shouldn't be saying, yeah, let's add more. It just tells me that you're not pushing hard enough on the sets that you do have right now on your plan.
I get that all the time too. It's like, can I train a sixth day? Can I do,
Yeah.
like, can I go in 2 times a day? I'm like, dude, like, if you were training hard enough, you'd be broken after 5 days.
Yeah, you're gonna want to train less. Like,
Yeah. Like, I can't wait. Like, when my rest day comes around, I'm like, thank God right now.
yeah.
Cause, like, I'm like, my CNS is fried.
Oh, for sure. And see, I personally switched to training 4 days a week instead of five. And even just mentally knowing that I can rest one more day
Hmm.
automatically makes me push harder when I'm in the gym because I know, well, I'm resting tomorrow anyways. So I need to just give it all I've got because it feels like you have less opportunities. So you don't want to mess it up, right?
I'm interested in that too, that you doing 4 days, because that's become a real buzz from Matt, right?
Yeah.
It's Matt that's doing that really.
Yeah. Well, it was Dorian
Um,
Yates also before.
Well, Dorian Yates
Yeah.
before then, and now we're seeing like a lot of like Matt's clients doing it,
Yeah.
but it's something that definitely intrigues me because I think like even outside of just the training aspect, like what I could do with an extra rest day just to get
Yeah.
shit done,
You
like
can get so much more stuff done
in
for
your
sure.
life, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, man, if I could just compound my time, and it makes sense because I went from a place where I was doing, 16 working sets to
Yeah.
like five.
Yeah.
So I've already cut down my volume huge in the gym, but it's just obviously way more intense. But if you could cut down the actual sessions, and still get maybe even an improved response like you're talking about,
Yeah.
then that could be a huge benefit. Like it's a less is more mentality, really.
For sure. And then like it gives you more time to either work more or
Mhm.
to add like what I call like a civilian day, which is
Yeah.
just like living a normal day without thinking about, well, with still eating food, but just doing like normal activities
Yeah.
instead of just being like bodybuilding work.
It's a hormonal thing too, because as your
For sure.
cortisol level rise, like through your training, if it's always up, you're not in like an anabolic state. So
No,
you're
exactly.
overtrained. Like you can easily overtrain. The
Yeah.
only reason you would need to train 5, 6, 7 times a week is because you're not training hard enough.
Yeah. And see, I feel like the less experienced you are, the more you're going to need that fifth day because you
Yes.
won't be able to
Yes.
generate enough intensity. So if you're listening to that and you just started or you've been working out for 2 years and you're like, oh, I'm going to train 4 days a week, you're probably better off still doing 5 days a week
Mhm.
because generating enough intensity through your work sets
It takes
takes time
experience.
and
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, to really be able to tap in your sets, like to make them super efficient. The more training experience you're gonna have, the more you're gonna be efficient at recruiting your muscles while working out instead of just going through the movement and all that kind of stuff. So it's really why the more experienced you are, the less you should need to train.
We just blew through a pretty like awesome piece on training there, but
Yeah.
I want to quickly jump back to the New York Pro because
Yeah.
you have a client that's actually doing it,
Yeah, I do. So
which is
Emily,
really cool.
yeah, so Emily's doing the New York Pro. It's going to be her second pro. Well, she did her pro debut last year.
Mhm.
She did Daytona, which was in Florida, obviously. She got fourth. I think there were 21 or 22 girls. She's pretty young for a figure competitor. So we dieted for 13 weeks. We started working together at 13 weeks out. So this year I do feel like she has really like a great chance of qualifying for the Olympia. Obviously, you never know like who's
Before
gonna
you go
be.
too far, why
Yeah.
why why 13 weeks? Like what was the special timeline that brought about?
We just started talking and connecting at 13 weeks out, and she wasn't being coached.
Got it.
So just because of that,
But
we
that was for
thought,
the previous season, like this season for New York. How
oh
how
yeah,
long
yeah,
is her
yeah.
prep been?
For now, we did 16, and
Got
we've
it.
been working together all of season long. So obviously, like I'm saying, 16 weeks, but as you know, like it's just an ongoing process, right? Like at
Yeah,
17 weeks or 18, you're still preparing for the show. So
right.
it's really just okay, now we're in prep mode, kind of.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it was 16 for New York, but it's also 19 for Toronto because she's doing Toronto 3 weeks after. Is it 2 weeks after? 3 weeks after.
It's 3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
How do
So
you manage expectations with a client like that? Like, would she have a target in mind? Is she thinking, hey, I'm going to go in and win?
yeah,
Or do you guys even have that discussion?
uh we did it because we both know that the goal is to win and qualify for the Olympia. Like we talked about it last year. We talked about the goal this year was to qualify for the Olympia.
Mhm.
Uh, Last year goal was just the first call out, but obviously placing fourth in a really solid lineup and having really positive feedback from the judges, it just makes sense to shoot for first place
Is it
at
hard for you to quickly bring up Emily's profile just to show, like, if anybody's watching on the YouTube? Because her
yeah,
structure is like really built for figure, in my opinion. Like,
yeah,
she's
for
got a
sure.
great, like, crazy wide clavicles, and a really good quad sweep that kind of,
Yeah.
accentuates a
I'm
small
actually gonna
waist.
show the check-in picture from this morning.
Perfect, even better. Yeah, like that's looking really good. Like her delts are super round too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she looks awesome. And this was this morning.
Yeah, this was this morning flat after taking the plane last night, and we started the carb up just pretty much now. She should be at meal 4 right now, so that's the first meal she's going to be having carbs in.
Okay.
Uh, what we did see last year is she can handle a lot of water and a lot of carbs. Uh, so we're feeding her pretty hard. Um,
What does pretty hard look like? Like, do you have like an idea in terms of grams of carbs or like
Yeah,
anything like
well,
that?
see, tomorrow we're gonna do about 200 gram of rice each meal, which I feel
Okay.
for 2 days out for a woman is kind of a lot. And
Hmm.
then we're gonna go from there, probably move up to 250 as we drop the protein down a bit. Our water is at 6 liters, which I feel is high too for a girl that size. Because if I'm thinking about myself, I'm usually at 7 liters.
Yeah,
Um,
it's nice to have it high though, right? Because then you
yeah.
can manipulate it way easier.
Well, for sure, you much prefer having that than the other way around.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'll pull up the her look from last year, I guess.
Yeah, I'm excited to. There's a lot of people in even in different categories that I really want to see at this show. Like we spoke about open bodybuilding, but I mean, there's a lot of storylines with classic, with the figure division, with like, just a lot of Canadians as well. Okay,
Yeah,
here we
for
go.
sure.
She's pulling a much deeper vacuum now,
Oh, for sure. And if you look at the leg separation, it's much better than last year already.
eh? Mhm.
Thing is, like, one really strong thing she has going is her width.
Oh, it's
She,
crazy wide across the back.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you can't really see it when she's alone, but when she's next to other girls, this is just
Stands out a
insane.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She also obviously has like a very feminine look to her, which I mean,
I
I
think
don't,
helps in the female categories, right?
yeah,
Like,
and I don't want to insult anyone, but like a lot of figure girls don't look that feminine, and I feel like they're trying to go back to that.
mhm.
So it definitely helps.
And you're going down there tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be driving. It's a 6 hours drive.
Oh, that's not bad at all, eh?
No, I mean, and that's what I was looking at. I'm like, if I take the plane, it's
It's going to
an
take six
hour.
hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Get to the airport, wait for Uber, and then kind of be stuck instead of having my car and be able to move around. So figured might as well just drive there.
Knowing you two, you probably got the VIP tickets. Eh? You
Oh,
front
for
row or
sure.
what?
For
Yeah.
sure.
Good for you, man. Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be good because then I'm going to be able to take pictures and help my algorithm, which we're going to talk about later, but we need help with that. So I figure every pro show I can get good pictures at, I'm going to
Mhm.
use to try and get more views.
Do you get
Um,
stressed at these shows, like when your
yeah,
client's getting close to coming on?
yeah. Especially when I'm not, okay, there's two things. And I'm sure you've experienced that. Sometimes you just know your client is not going to win. I feel like when that happens, there's no stress. It's just like, well, I hope he looks good and I know he looks good, but I also know he's not going to win for whatever reason.
Right.
Could be just not enough muscle, could be that we already know that
There's
someone else
someone
is winning.
crazy doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So when this happens, I feel like my stress is way lower. But the
Mhm.
more
It's
bench,
expectations, right? If someone's
yeah,
expected to win, it becomes a lot more
yeah,
challenging for sure.
exactly. So it's either if I'm expecting big results or if I have absolutely no idea how it's going to go. Like I
Mhm.
looked at the figure list. Uh, I would say like half of the girls, I have no idea who they are.
Right.
And I didn't look it up. There's no point. It won't matter. So like it can, as much as I tell competitors not to look, I feel like coaches shouldn't look either because it can really mess you up if you let yourself be influenced by, oh, this girl is looks super lean, so I'm going to try to put more diuretic into my girl, and then
I
it
think the
can mess up.
only way that that could benefit you would be like, let's say, for instance, you think it's going to be between you and one other guy,
Yeah,
and you're looking at him and he's got like he hits a pose a certain way or something, and you think that you might be able to expose it. Like, let's say he's got a bad midsection
yeah,
and you think that you can crunch down on abs or something like that, right?
yeah.
I think if it's 1v1, but if you're like, oh man, I'm looking at like 20 different people, that's not going to serve you
No, exactly.
in this in the least, right?
No, and I feel like people should only do that when it's like a big pro show or the Olympia, where you know it's like you and someone else are really close and you need to get that edge.
Hmm.
Uh, Peaking based on someone else at a regional show sounds really stupid to me. So,
Yeah,
so,
no, for sure.
so I would just say like, do you? And that's what I do with Emily. Like, I'm not going to go and try to look at other people. But yeah, I'm super nervous. Like the bigger the show, the more nervous I am.
Hmm.
Uh, it's a positive stress in a way though, because I'm able to manage it. I just don't really sleep well the night before though.
Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah. And full disclosure, I'm also excited that Emily is going to be against Valerie because I was
Hmm.
coaching Val way back then.
Hmm.
And she was who I thought was going to be my first pro client.
Hmm.
And obviously, when she left, and we talked about that, her and myself were in good terms, but it kind of stung a bit.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's kind of my revenge.
your little rivalry that you
Yeah, and
have in
that's
your
that's
head.
probably super petty of me, but I'm like, I want my girl to win and just
Yeah,
to
there's nothing wrong with that. It's like a
no.
fun competitive thing
Oh, for
too. And
sure.
I do this all the time. Like I have people that are in my head that I'm just like, man, I can't wait to beat you, dude.
Yeah, and
You
it's
know?
also the fact that like Val qualified for the Olympia before, right?
Mhm,
So even if let's say Emily for some reason doesn't qualify but beats Val, then it's
mhm.
still like, okay, well, you've beat someone that went to the Olympia and that improved from when she qualified. So it's still like a win in that sense.
I have a win-win scenario because Emily is your client
Yeah,
and you and I are friends
yeah,
and Valerie and I are friends. So
yeah,
I gave her a big hug today and she's off to New York and
yeah,
she does look really great. I like she's another one that has like that like good feminine look
yeah,
and like very like I used to actually compare her physique to mine. Like it's like more of like a fresh like younger type look.
yeah.
Like it doesn't look like beat up at all.
No,
Like she's got really clean lines and just the flow of her physique, like everything fits together well.
yeah,
There's not like one part where it's like, oh, her like delts and stuff are like overpowering, you know?
no, I
Like it's
agree.
very streamlined physique.
Yeah,
So I do like her physique a lot. But again, I don't follow the division closely enough to weigh in on like other competitors in that at
yeah,
all. What I'm excited for on top of all that is the classic
yeah.
division because what's going to happen is these shows are going to start spilling over into Toronto.
Oh, for sure. Especially with
And
that prize money increase at 5,000.
exactly, right? Because what happened was at Pittsburgh, it was Eric and Matt Grego,
Yeah,
and Eric beat Matt based on sheerly on condition.
yeah,
And these two are going toe to toe again in New York. And I would hate for it to look the same, but Matt gets rewarded
yeah.
because this happened last year, I found.
Do you know
It,
where I can get pictures of both?
yeah, you could go to Bodybuilding Without Borders, or you could, oh, you know what's up? Okay, I want to give a shout out to a classic physique page
Yeah,
on here. It's not really followed that heavily, but check it out right now. Pop it up. It's called CPC Bodybuilding, I think. Is it CPC Bodybuilding or
CPC
C?
bodybuilding.
Yeah, so that's Brant. He does incredible coverage. Like it's the best classic physique coverage on Instagram.
All
And
right,
he
so
cut he cut he
that's the page.
yeah, so Brant covers all of the classic physique shows and he goes into depth. He does like a full review of each show. You can see there he has his review coming up for New York, has his top pick there. And he does all the placings and he weighs in on things and he's not like he's just a very like well thought out person who like really knows the athletes in detail. So he would be kind of weighing and he would be someone I would listen to for what his thoughts would be going into a show like this. But yeah, you can see here like,
So that's Eric and that's Matt.
and I much prefer Matt's look. Like I think like okay, so I watched this live, okay?
Yeah.
And when they called Eric's name as the winner, I almost fell off the couch.
Okay.
I was that surprised because now I understand why they did now. I mean, I understood at the time sort of why they did,
Yeah.
but I still thought Matt's look is just so much more pleasing that they were going to give it to him. But obviously, Eric brought way better condition from the back. His glutes are absolutely peeled. Now, what I'm interested in seeing is when these guys go up against each other again, like, are there going to be substantial changes? And if not, I hope that they stick to what they chose the previous week
Yeah.
because I don't like when they just reward the other guy to get him into the Olympia.
Oh
I
no, for
think
sure.
you have to beat that guy.
Yeah. See, to me, looking at those pictures, the big differences
It's
I
the
see
back.
is right
It's the
there.
back. Eric's back is very, very complete. Probably like one of the best backs,
Yeah.
honestly. But then
Also,
every other shot, man, I don't see it, dude. Like
but
that. Okay, so that's
was
not a
that his
classic
classic
pose.
pose?
That's not a classic pose, but that's what he
Yeah.
hits as his classic
Yeah.
pose.
This needs to go.
Yeah, but even Eric's, man, like that doesn't look very good to me
No.
either.
You know
And
what I
again, I don't want to be talking shit about these guys because they're like people I'm going
yeah.
to be competing against too.
But
But
you know what I feel like looking at Eric real quick,
yeah,
like comparing both,
yeah.
him, I feel like it's a mix of a classic and a bodybuilding guy.
Yep,
Whereas
that's fair.
Eric, I just think it's like a weaker Wesley kind of look. Probably
Okay.
because of
No,
the
I'm
rib
listening to
cage or
you on that.
something like that.
Yeah.
And to me, that's why I'm looking at both and I'm like, yeah, this looks good, but this looks more bodybuilding. This looks more classic.
The thing
And
about
and
Eric
then
too
if they
is,
turn to the back, well, I'm like, well, then this wins. And
yeah,
then see, I don't
like
know, like this midsection is not
yeah,
really
it's
good.
kind of washed out, right? Eric
Yeah.
Eric is huge too, dude. Like he's like 6'3", like
Yeah.
255 or something. Like he's a big man. And Steve judged that show.
Yeah.
He likes big
Oh, for
guys.
sure.
So it's going to be the rematch this weekend for that. And then I would have to imagine, let's say Matt doesn't win, okay,
He's
and
gonna
Eric
go to
wins back to
Toronto
back. He's got to come to Toronto.
for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
even if he wins, like
he
you die.
might. I don't think if he wins, he'll do it. I don't.
Do guys have that much money in their pockets?
Well, it's 10 grand US, right? So like when you think about
It's
what,
five, no? If
no,
you
it's
win
10, it's
Toronto,
10, 10. They just
they
increased it again.
they increase it twice.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's 10 grand. It's 10 grand every like tier one pro show. I think it might even be 10 grand for every classic physique pro show now,
Whoa. Okay.
which is good, man. Really, really great. Like I'm super excited about that. Like, and when I heard that, I actually like sent Cam a quick voice note. I'm like, maybe we can do shows after Toronto.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, he didn't like the idea
No.
because he thinks that like it's best to just shut it down and like prepare for the Olympia.
Yeah, I
Like
get
he
that
thinks he
also.
thinks that that's the most logical approach. Like I'm not doing this to win money, right?
No.
Like obviously the money is the nice piece, but if it's going to change how, I could have done potentially at the Olympia, then I will take like being a bodybuilder over like the 10 grand any
Yeah,
day.
but let's be real here. You're doing better for yourself than most of these guys, though. Like that 10 grand
Okay, so
doesn't
you mean
impact
like
your
as a
life as
general
much.
person, like trying
Yeah.
to make, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I could
like
see
your
that.
that 10 grand doesn't impact your life as much as it can impact the life of other guys.
But okay, we're not in a position where 10 grand US is nothing to sniff at. Like, I mean, we're talking
No.
that's like 14 grand Canadian at this point.
No,
Like
but it
that's a
probably
nice chunk
represent
of
a
change.
smaller, yeah, but it probably represent a smaller percentage of your total yearly income than a lot of these guys that are kind of at your level, so to speak.
Okay, but let's talk about bodybuilding, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
these shows are 30, 20,
Yeah.
$50,000. And you do see some of them continuing to do shows, but you don't see that many. And it to me, it's a balance between running yourself into the ground
Yeah.
and impairing your health.
I agree, but do you feel like dieting for 3 more weeks is running yourself into the ground?
Well, if you're having to keep your orals at the same range as they have been for the past 6 weeks,
Yeah.
over time, that's going to definitely bring a negative impact to your health.
Okay, so let's say you weren't winning Toronto and there's a show 3 weeks after and you got second place in Toronto. Would you do
Different
that?
story because it's not financially motivated anymore.
Okay,
I'm
so
not doing the Olympia because I want the money,
no, no, for
right?
sure.
Like if I don't win in Toronto, then like I'm gonna be like, okay, we got to go again. And in my mind, if I don't win in Toronto, it's because I did something like with the peak or something like didn't work out the way that I wanted it to.
Okay. Do you feel
And I
like,
need to run it back, not because like someone's going to be way better than me. Like that's not a reason I see.
okay, so if there was an amount, like, do you feel like some guys, there would be an
Okay, I know what you're
amount?
going to do now. You're going to say if it's 50 grand, do I
Well,
do it?
no,
And three
no,
weeks
no.
later,
What I'm gonna ask is how much money would you take to not do the Olympia? Like I would tell
this
you,
year,
like,
this year,
yeah, like let's say
uh,
you win Toronto,
yeah,
but I give you the choice. You can either win 100,000 or go to the Olympia.
I'm 100% taking the 100,000.
Okay, so at
Yeah,
what amount do you feel
but
like most guys would balance to one or the other?
I think depending on how like good they think they can be. So for me, I think a perfect season for me,
Yeah.
okay, would be to win Toronto and to be 15th
Yeah.
at the Olympia. I think that would be perfect.
Perfect.
But I would trade 15th for $100,000 any day of the week. I
Okay.
think next year, if you would ask me the same question and I'm another 6, 7 pounds heavier, and I think maybe I can crack the top five, I have a completely different
Well, for sure.
scenario because
Yeah.
even if you're in the top five or in some sort of conversation around that, that generates income on its own. That generates popularity. Like, dude, if
100%.
I all of a sudden was in the top five this year, I'd be like a famous classic physique
Yeah.
guy overnight,
No,
right?
for sure. I feel like as soon as you're top 10, then you're pretty much set.
You're a household name in the bodybuilding
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
But see, that's the thing. I don't feel like Matt Grego or Eric are there yet, which is why to me it's like, well,
I don't think so either.
just do the other show and win another 10 grand.
I think that Matt Grego can be, but he's not yet.
No, exactly.
Eric, I don't think has the structure to ever be in that conversation.
Oh, please, someone crop this and send it to Eric in his DMs.
Listen, I gotta be objective about this stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't say that as like I don't like him or I don't
No,
even
for
know him,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
But I'm just like that's my
Yeah.
view on his physique, you know.
Oh.
Don't clip that and send it.
Clip that and send it to him.
That's gonna be like we have this program that basically cuts out like things that we talk about on the podcast, and that's gonna be the number one thing.
That's gonna be, I'm gonna be the one posting it.
It's gonna be me calling out all the classic physique guys.
No,
But
I get what you mean, but I'd be very curious to see like all the pros, like what amount do they feel they would take that instead of an Olympia qualification? Because I'm sure the range would be really, really different based on where their
yeah,
life is at and how much potential they see in themselves.
but on top of that, the extra prize money is for sure gonna draw people to do multiple
For
shows.
sure.
And that's going to make the division a lot more competitive and a
Yeah.
lot more fun to watch. Because to your point earlier, like when we were talking about like bodybuilding, it used to be like, man, there's one good guy. You knew he was going to win. And then it
Yeah.
was like three or four guys that were like not even Olympia level guys doing the
Yeah.
show. Now, I mean, even potentially New York or Toronto or the next one, like there's going to be 3 to 4 guys on the stage at that day that probably will end up at the Olympia.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And
you're
like,
looking at like really high level guys.
yeah, and like to top it off, like you're also hoping that these guys have some clause in their contract where if they win a show, they also get bonus money from their sponsors. So that 10,000 can quickly become like 12, 15 or something like that.
Hmm.
So it
Yeah.
becomes like way more interesting for guys to do more than just one show, which is nice.
My last 2 meals were chicken and asparagus. So I'm like having to pee like an absolute
Oh, you want to
racehorse. But
go? Yeah.
I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna hold it for now.
Yeah,
But
you
I
can
just
go. I can do a single segment about the algorithm if you want.
yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay.
Because I don't know anything about the Instagram algorithm. You kick it off,
Yeah,
and then I'll
perfect.
come back and I'll pretend like I know what's going on. But I probably should turn my mic off, right? If I'm gonna
Yeah,
do this. Okay. All
probably.
right. I'll be back.
All right. So that's awkward. So for you guys that saw my post this week or that didn't, I'm sure most of you noticed that your Instagram views uh, dropped drastically lately. And if you were not aware, it's because Instagram changed the whole algorithm. The reason why I feel like it's important to talk about it is because I feel like for bodybuilding, fitness, in the fitness industry at all, social medias and especially Instagram is super, super, super important when it comes to sponsorships, which is really how you can make money realistically. Um, so the main difference that happened is that before with Instagram, when we were posting something, 95% of the people that was going to see your post at first were going to be your followers. And then about 5% were going to be your non-followers. What that means is that your followers have a higher percentage chance of interacting with your content, right? When we say interact with your content, it means either liking your post, sharing your post, commenting. all that kind of stuff. So it's really just what's called engagement. Um, Obviously, people that follow you love your content. Now, this is how Instagram use those metrics to decide if they're going to show your post to more people. So the more likes, the more shares, the more time on your pictures, the more comments you're going to have in your first hour of posting the content, the more Instagram is going to push that content to your other followers and to your non-followers. Now what they did is they switched it up and decided to do 50-50. So when you post your content, 50% of the people that are going to see it in the first hours are going to be your followers, and 50% are going to be your non-followers. Realistically, non-followers have less chance of being interested in your content, and especially if it's not quality content, right? If it's just a selfie of you in the gym, if it's ad promo for a supplement company, they have a high chance of just scrolling past it, not liking the picture, not commenting, not reposting, not sharing. So you only have your 50% of your followers that are a chance of engaging with your content. So because of that, what is going to happen in your first hour is you're going to have less engagement with your post, and your post is going to be pushed to less people than before. So what you need to do is really just make good content. Uh, and it's especially hard for the bodybuilding community because a lot of content is just flexing in the gym, picture, all that kind of stuff. And this will kind of have to go, I feel, because if you just post the same pictures or same kind of pose all the time, the non-followers are not gonna engage with that content and your views are just gonna drop. The positive thing is if you make quality content, then you're going to have a better chance of being discovered by people that are not already following you because it's 50-50 at the beginning. So that's really the big difference between before and now. So it's really just make sure that the content you create is quality content. Put more time in your captions to really make something engaging. Use the correct hashtags. By the way, for hashtags, you should be using between 4 and 7. That's the best way to correctly direct the Instagram algorithm. And why I'm telling you all this is because the more you're able to grow your Instagram, the more companies are going to want to have you as an athlete, and the more you're going to be able to generate sales or views or whatever a company might want. And this is really how you're going to be able to generate income from being a fitness influencer slash bodybuilder. You got that?
I got the second half, so I'm gonna have to listen back to the first half of it. But you
Yeah,
did tell me some of that before,
yeah,
and yeah, I have the thing with mine where like I think I'm shadow banned because I shared like it was a friend of mine at the gym gave me a chocolate bar that was infused with mushrooms,
yeah.
and then I tagged him in it, but Instagram took it as like I was promoting like him selling it or something like
Okay,
that.
yeah.
So it was like the sale of illegal drugs. And
Oh,
now I have like a flag on my account.
oh,
So
really?
yeah, so I put out some like questions about people asking, and like I said, basically, like if you go on your account settings,
Yeah.
you can look at your account standing, like
Oh,
so like
yeah.
where
So
your
you don't have
account
a green
is.
check right
I
now.
don't have a green check. I
Oh,
have an orange like exclamation point.
yeah, that's gonna go away, but I think it takes 90 days.
No, it takes like a year,
Oh,
dude,
really?
because mine this was from last August.
Oh,
And I
okay.
was like, okay, I guess people just don't give a shit about me anymore because I'm not getting that much
Yeah.
attraction on Instagram. But then usually as like my prep starts progressing,
Yeah, you get more
it
views.
goes crazy,
Yeah.
right? But now it's like okay, it's starting to kind of creep back up with everything going on, but I know that it's still hampered from that. So I've gone back and forth. Like, I don't think creating a new Instagram is the way to go.
No.
Like, it's just because I have, established a decent amount of followers. So I think I talked to Devin Bernardo, actually. He's from our gym. He's an
Okay.
influencer. He's got like 1 million followers or whatever. And he said the exact same thing happened. He shared something with mushrooms in it
Yeah.
and he got a flag and it took a year to get
Oh,
rid of it.
really?
and then after he got rid of it, like his engagement was way up. So
Oh,
you got to be careful with what you do put out on Instagram. Like I never thought about it at all, right? Like even through the
yeah.
COVID stuff, I was saying like fuck masks and like,
Yeah.
don't do it. Like the government's a piece of shit. And if
Yeah.
you start doing that too much on there too, they're gonna flag you and you may not even know that you're flagged and you're just not gonna get shown to anyone.
No.
So it's kind of a bit of a pain because it's like, man, like what happened to like free speech and being able to kind of speak with your mind and put
Yeah.
what you want out there? Like it's not really hurting anyone, you know what I mean?
No.
But I guess they have to draw the line somewhere. And yeah, that's what's going on with mine. But hopefully get rid of that soon.
Yeah, I feel also like if you tag too many companies, like too many times, like in a month or something like that.
That always looks lame though when people tag like 20 people in a picture
Yeah,
every time.
no,
Like,
no, but I mean like if you make like let's say 8 posts, but
mhm,
one is like for a supplement company, another one is for a clothing brand, another one is for and they're also like tagged in the picture,
mhm.
and they're registered as business accounts. I feel like those views are gonna drop also. Because
Yeah, but no
Instagram
one just
does.
wants to look at people selling crap all day
No,
either.
exactly. So I feel like the best way to go, like for those wanting more engagement and all that kind of stuff, is for sure through the reels. That's
Mhm.
100% what Instagram tries to push more. And then, even though my views are really bad right now, what I can tell you is that one really solid way to get those views up is to create a reel, first of all, but also go through the trending audios and pick a track that's trending right now, because that's going to show up way more in the searches. It's also going to keep someone more interested in your video just because the track is good. Like, even if your video is kind of lame, if the person wants to listen to the track, it still counts
Yeah.
as more time, view time for Instagram. So,
I don't know how relatable this is either, but like I found a lot like when I started getting a lot of clients through Instagram, the biggest change that I made was actually like asking people to work with me.
yeah,
So before I started doing that, I used to always think it was kind of like cheesy and lame when someone put out like, taking on new clients and like
yeah,
this and that. But that was like literally just putting myself out there
yeah,
became like the biggest attraction for clients for me. So what I would do was like I would put out a lot of like free information, like kind of like you do with like
yeah,
Q&As and like, helping people where you can like for free
yeah.
and then offering your service.
Oh, for
So like
sure.
always mixing that offer in before like some people they just give and like they never get anything back from it.
Yeah,
And some people just ask and they're like, "Hey, like buy this, like work with me, do my program." But
yeah,
they don't get enough value yet to trust you or to like have think that you have any kind of knowledge that they could
yeah,
benefit from. So I always found that like if I was like, "Hey, try this and that," people would trust what my opinion was, and then I would say like, "This is a service that I offer." And the funny thing is, when people are purchasing something, they may see you offer it like 10 times. And on the
yeah,
11th one, they're like, okay, like I'm going to do
yeah,
it today because I'm in that mood of like wanting to do this. Like you might not catch them on a Tuesday feeling that way, but on Saturday, that same person is going to interact with your thing. So, like, even if you're putting out an offer and nobody replies to it, a week later, it could be the exact same audience and you could get 5 people sign up with you. So,
totally.
yeah. So I think that that is a good piece of advice is to just like whatever you're offering, like make sure people know that that's what you do.
Yeah. Well, just imagine if I was a painter, right? And I was just an artist and I was
Hmm.
just posting my paintings on Instagram, but just posting them and people would be like, oh, that looks good. That looks good. I would just always post it.
Hmm.
Maybe some people would DM me and ask if they can buy it, but most
Yeah.
would think he's just doing that for himself. They're not for sale, whatever.
Hmm.
But if I decided to just add a little sticker where it's like DM me for more info if you want to buy that painting or whatever,
Yeah.
I would get way more people asking me
Oh,
the
for sure.
information. So it's really the same thing here. If people don't see you openly say that you're coaching,
Hmm.
and I know this is what happens for myself, is some are going to think that you don't take any more clients right now,
Hmm.
because that's something I get through my emails is mostly, are
Are
you
you
still
taking any?
taking on
Yeah.
clients?
Yep. Yep.
Because they're not sure, right? Because I'm never openly saying like I have spots open or I'm
Hmm.
taking on clients. So obviously, if you have something to offer, don't assume people are gonna know. Remind them more than enough. But you need to create some value because back to my painting example, if I was just posting that I'm selling paintings, but never showed what I was doing,
Hmm.
nobody would want those paintings.
For sure.
So I feel like it's really the same thing. You need to create value and then bring up an offer.
And the only reason you don't see it from like the top coaches is just because they're getting inundated with so many requests that they
Yeah,
don't need to do that. So there's like the top level where they may not even be accepting people.
yeah,
But then if someone was to come in to see you and all those things, they're not just going to assume that you're accepting clients or you're selling whatever you're selling or you have programs for this and that. You have to put that out there. And I think for me at the beginning, like I've been coaching for like 10 years.
yeah,
So like I started doing it a long time ago. And when I did it, I had that like imposter syndrome feeling
yeah,
where like I was like, oh man, like Dorian's gonna think this is so lame, clients and stuff like that. Like people who I looked up to in the
yeah,
space at the time, I was just kind of like, oh man, like this is weird. And like now I see my clients a lot of the times, I'm sure you do too, like they're accepting clients.
yeah,
And I don't I think that's amazing. You know what I mean? They have their audience. Hopefully they can generate income and help people
for
too.
sure.
But in your head, you're kind of thinking like you're going to be judged for it
Yeah,
because it's new and you don't know if it's going to be successful. But then you get to the point like you and I, where we have like a pretty big roster of online clients, and now like if we offer coaching or if we put out something like, this is the way that we do something, people are just like used to seeing that now. But at the
yeah,
beginning, they're not going to be. So you do have to have that like bravery or courage to come up to actually like put yourself out there a little bit in order to kind of start to get clients, because that is a huge question and I'm sure you get it all the time is how do I get clients, right?
yeah,
Yeah. And
for sure.
that's one of the ways. Definitely you got to put yourself out there.
Yeah. And see, like you're talking about, like you feared that like Dorian was gonna be judgmental and all that kind of stuff. And now us being in a position we are, like I know for myself, I don't even have time to pay attention to that. Like
No,
if you're successful, you won't give a shit. You won't be judging other people that are trying to be successful and doing stuff
the only time
to
I do
build
is that I'm
themselves
like,
up.
oh God, like this person's a coach, like I don't think they really know much,
Yeah, no, but
you
that's for
know?
sure a
Or they
completely
like
different scenario.
sometimes I have coaches asking me questions
Yeah,
and I'm like shit, dude, like you don't know that?
yeah,
Like, and you have like clients that you're offering advice to and stuff.
yeah,
So that's the other piece. Obviously, if you do offer, coaching and programs and stuff, like get educated.
yeah. Like
And if
that's
you're
for
not already highly educated in it, like work on programs online. Like there's definitely resources out there to
yeah.
help you.
Like if you wouldn't coach someone you deeply care about, you probably shouldn't be coaching.
Yeah, so
Like,
there's the coach that's out there for a paycheck
yeah,
and they don't have their clients' values and interests in mind. And I had a conversation with an in-person client that I also train online today where he was like starting to like, he wasn't feeling very good and he's not a competitor or anything. And I said, like, why listen, like, why don't we just shake it up and like let's just get lean?
yeah,
Because when you get lean, you feel better about yourself,
for
like you're
sure.
healthier, like everything just starts to kind of click better in your life.
Yeah,
And he never thought about that, right? And he
really.
was so thankful to me that he was like, if he had gone to another coach and was just like, I want to get big, they wouldn't have any kind of like, they would just be like, okay, I'll take your money and like let's just get big, and there's no
Yeah,
thought about it, right? But I took the time to be like, I think that this might be a better route for you.
yeah,
And he was really appreciative of that, but that was because I actually like care about my clients and how they're
yeah,
doing, right? Whereas there are so many examples of guys who are just in it to make a quick buck, or just have bad information. So
for sure.
that's another interesting thing is like when you're picking a coach, you do got to be extremely careful of who you do work with. There's a lot of bad ones for sure.
Yeah. So don't work with Blake.
So
is
don't
what
work
he's
with
saying.
Julian. Yeah.
If you want to get big, don't ask Blake. That's what he just said. He's
Is
gonna
this a
try to
self?
get you lean.
Just get shredded like me. That's it.
Yeah. Um, so I think we can wrap that up for today.
You don't want to ask me about my prep, eh? You don't
Uh,
care?
I
That's
feel
okay.
like
We can
we're
talk about
gonna
it
ask
next week.
next week. I feel
Okay.
like we've been on for what, an hour? A bit more than an hour? Yeah. We're gonna ask Blake about his prep next week.
That's a deal.
So you're gonna be 2.5 weeks out next week?
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're gonna be in the fun spot.
Yep.
Um, but next week, Blake is going to talk about what he's going to do for the last part of his prep, which is something he's never done before, really.
No, never. Not even close.
So he's going to be able to talk to us about that more, which is why I feel I don't want to kind of rush this because I
Yeah, that's
feel you're
fair.
going to have a lot to talk about.
Mhm.
And we could even try and maybe get that third person in for like a 30 minute or 20 minutes to talk about it.
100%. That'll be a non-issue for
So
sure.
that would be good to at least talk about that part and maybe even like recap of the New York Pro if you want. Um,
But this week is really about the New York Pro, right?
yeah,
Like I think that's the exciting thing. You're driving down. I can't wait for that. And you're gonna be back when then on the
I'm coming back Monday afternoon.
okay. So we're
So,
on for Wednesday
oh,
again.
for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm staying one day in New York afterward
Okay.
to visit, and I'm gonna do the helicopter tour I
Oh
talked to you
yeah, I
about.
saw that. Is
So
Mary Lou
if
going with you too?
yeah, yeah, she's
Nice.
going with me. So
Nice.
yeah, I wouldn't do that helicopter tour alone. That would be weird.
That's so lame.
So if I'm not back next week, guys, it means I probably crashed. And
Yeah, I'm done with helicopters. Like those things scare the shit out of me now.
yeah, it
I've been in
scares.
one once and it was absolutely terrifying. I'll never do it
Yeah,
again.
I've never been in any, but this one is with the doors off. So that's going to be scary as fuck.
Yeah, you just dangle your feet over the edge and
Yeah. And
take
now,
Instagram videos.
yeah, and I need to decide what shoes I'm going to wear because then
Ooh,
it's like, what shoes am I taking for those videos?
those are a lot of good options over there, though.
Yeah, there's some on the other side too.
If you guys make it this far, you comment the colorway that you
Yeah.
want to see there.
Yeah. Let me know.
I like the pink laces, the blues.
Yeah. Yeah,
Those
they're
are nice.
nice.
Yeah.
All right. And for you, I mean, I'm guessing the next few days are going to be just same old go through
Y-
prep, get through the
yeah.
day.
I'm posing with Joey Belt tomorrow,
Okay.
so that'll be a
Oh,
change
that's
up.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. I need the help with a couple of different tweaks. And then I'm updating like my full update is every Thursday.
Okay.
So I'm also going to be updating Cam. We touch base almost every day,
So you're
but
going to be dating Cam and myself tomorrow, is what
yeah,
you're
I'll be
saying.
sending, well, I'm sending you pics like
Yeah.
twice a day at this point. So Julian
Yeah.
gets to see like my fasted look, my post training look, my
Yeah.
before bed look. So yeah,
Yeah.
you're right there with me. But yeah, tomorrow will be really telling. I've been like stringing along a lot of low days. I'm in a low weight today. So
Yeah. Do you feel confident in doing Toronto now? Because I know last week you were kind of,
yeah, I am very confident
yeah.
now.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Nice.
I think that the look, like, like I said, I'm not going to go too deep into this,
Yeah.
but like, I've always been one that like peaks on time,
Yeah.
and I could just see things coming together and clicking for me now, where it's like literally every day, like there's some new
Some change and new
improvement.
improvement. Yeah. And it
Yeah,
can be a mind fuck when looking at Instagram and seeing guys like ready way ahead of time. Cause then you
yeah. We
start
talked
to,
about that.
yeah, because then you kind of doubt yourself a bit. You're like, well, fuck, am I late? Because they all look
Yeah,
leaner than me. But thing is, they're gonna look the same for the next 3 weeks, whereas you're still gonna progress.
it's not a skinny guy competition either.
Exactly.
You got to hang on to tissue. Like if your only piece is condition, you're missing
Yeah.
out on two-thirds, probably three-quarters of what you need to be
Yeah.
successful on stage. Condition is a prerequisite at the pro level. You don't have it, you don't compete. You're not in shape, don't go on stage, right?
Yeah.
But the other pieces, if you have that with the condition always has to be there. There's no negotiation on
No, it's
that.
not there. You drop to the last call out. instantly.
100%.
Yeah,
And especially in classic physique, if your glutes are not like peeled from the back,
you're out.
you're done.
Yeah,
So with that, it has to be paired obviously with size, fullness, shape. There's all these little things that kind of create that, whatever octagon that you're looking at. But I just think that the like I'm very well rounded now there.
yeah, yeah.
And
You
and I
are.
think that there's not going to be a lot of areas that people can beat me from condition to shape to size to all those
No.
things because I'm taller too.
Yeah,
And that's where the confidence comes from now is that just like I know I'm going to be in shape for Toronto. And I think that last week was like the one thing that was kind of sticking out to me. I was like, hey, I'm going to get in shape for this.
yeah,
But now, like, man, I'm cooking every day and I'm waking up lighter and harder and stuff. So yeah, that's not uh, an issue anymore. And it's
yeah.
just kind of comes down to like time now.
I don't think people are able to picture how much you're going to be improved. Like the way, because I feel like everything that needed to come up did come up, and it just made everything so much stronger because everything is balanced, but everything is also really, really good. Like it's hard to pick something where you're like, he loses points there right now
I'm
for you.
still 17 pounds heavier
Yeah.
than I was for my prep for Savannah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So even if you think that I've got 5 to 7 pounds to shave off, which
That's
is
still
going to
10
look like
pounds.
a ton of weight at this stage,
Yeah.
it's still 10 pounds.
Yeah. But the
And
stage weight
of
is a
stage weight.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah. And see, like back to the like keeping muscle tissue, you know those guys that are like happy to get like eye days or refeeds every 2 days near the end of prep?
mhm.
It's not a good thing. Like if you need to have eye days this often, it's because you're losing tissue and your coach is actually trying to prevent you from losing too much muscle. So as much
So
as
I'll jump in on that because
yeah,
I'm having a lot of high days.
yeah,
And the reason I am is because I find, or we're finding that my legs are flattening out
yeah,
so quickly
okay,
that if we feel like we go too low
yeah,
for too long, that I'm gonna have a stringier look, and it's
yeah.
gonna be hard to rebound it and to keep my legs fresh
How often would you say those refeeds are?
once a week.
Okay, well, that's not too much. I'm really talking about those guys that have one like every 2 or 3 days.
But have you seen my refeed?
They're big, they're
It's
huge.
it's absurd, dude.
Yeah,
Like it's like
that's good.
5,500 calories and 850 grams of carbs.
Yeah, well, you're a big guy too, so
I've never been able to eat like that without having like gained 5 pounds the next day. Like I'm waking up the
yeah,
same weight after those high days, which
yeah.
um yeah. Again, now we're talking about my prep, which we weren't gonna do. So let's end it with
Yeah,
that, I think. This is listen, I'm having a blast doing these.
me too.
Um
That's fun.
It is a lot of fun, and I really think that as we continue to do it and to add more layers of different people and perspectives and stuff, it's just going to keep getting better and better. And um, let us know in the comments too, like if you guys notice like it getting better, or if you
or
guys
or
notice something
getting
that
worse.
getting worse. Yeah, more importantly, is it getting worse, right? And what can we do to correct the course? But um, it is hard at times, I find, because we've set ourselves up to want to talk about so many topics
Yeah.
that when we hop on here, it's like once we start going down the bodybuilding road, you and I could talk about bodybuilding
Oh,
on
for
here for
sure.
10 hours.
Yeah.
So if you do want to hear a little bit more, like I know we touched on like coaching and business and like, we've got so many different things on the go that kind of surround the fitness industry, but and even the relationships we talked about a little bit the previous
Yeah.
episode. If there's something that really stands out and you guys want to add it to the comments of like, hey, like I really would like to hear about this in the next episode, we're gonna be catering to anybody that comes up to us with any kind of advice for the show, anything that they want to hear. We're brand new to this and we don't have a huge viewership at this point. So whatever you guys are jumping in early with, we're going to cater to.
100%. So thank you if you made it here. Subscribe, like, share, all that kind of stuff. It really helps a lot too. And as Blake said, if you got anything you want to comment, anything you would like, just let us know. either in the comments or you can DM us directly.
Thank you
Thanks
guys.
for
We'll talk to you next
Thank you.
week.
Bye.